Welcome to the recording of the Podmasters Advanced Toastmasters Club panel on website options for Toastmasters clubs. This panel, featuring Pete Baumgarten, Ambassador, Free Toast Host, and David F. Carr, Founder, Toastmost.org, was recorded on December 7, 2025.
I'd like to welcome everyone tonight, our members and our guests, and our panelists tonight, who are both very experienced Toastmasters and experts, among other things, in Toastmasters Club websites. Our two panelists tonight are Pete Baumgarten, who's also known as Free Toast Pete. He's an ambassador with Free Toast Host. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Pete. Pete has spent most of his career looking at screens, working in spreadsheet design, technical writing, copywriting, quality control, and user interface consulting. He has been a Toastmaster for 12 years, serving in various club and district officer positions. He was introduced to Free Toast Host in 2016 and immediately recognized the value of consolidating all his club's administrative functions into this versatile, cloud-based platform. Pete started leading live Free Toast Host training sessions a couple of years ago and has created instructional content and training videos. He recently joined the Free Toast Host Ambassadors, becoming an official member of the leadership team. So welcome to Pete. I'd also like to introduce our second panelist, David F. Carr. Dave Carr is a writer, editor, and digital creator who has spoken about digital trends at tech conferences internationally and at the recent Toastmasters International Convention in Philadelphia. He has been researching and writing about the web since the mid-1990s when he was an editor at Internet World magazine, and he's currently the news and research editor at SimilarWeb. In his spare time, Dave develops WordPress plugins, including RSVP Maker for event marketing and registration, and Toastmaster-specific extensions. The Toastmost.org service began as a set of WordPress customizations for his home club, Club Awesome, in Coral Springs. He made the software available as open source and established the Toastmost.org website hosting service to make it more easily available. In addition to Club Awesome, David is active in Online Presenters Toastmasters, which he led to charter in 2017. So welcome to both of our panelists. We are going to talk about 4 or 5 topics with the panelists, and we're going to have an audience Q&A following the panel for about 10 minutes or a little more than that. So if you have a question during the panel, please put your questions in the chat or you can raise a hand. We'll definitely take questions at the end of the formal panel and possibly during the panel as well. So without further ado, I'd like to pose our first question to our two panelists. Can you please provide an overview of your site? I guess we'll start with Pete, since Free Toast Host arose before Toastmasters.
Sure. Yeah, good afternoon, evening, morning, whatever we are. I am going to just had to do a little swapping. I'm going to try and share my screen. Oh, come on. Where is this thing? There it is. Share. Screen 1. And now I got to move my Zoom off. Sorry for the delay. Here we go. Free Toast Host, I think, is familiar to most, if not all of you. It is a free website hosted by some Toastmasters volunteers, and it provides 3 primary services that clubs can use. Number 1, it's got a home page that a landing page that you should use to promote your club, make your club easy to find. And then it has, behind a login screen, it's got a meeting agenda. This is a private service for Toastmasters clubs. You know what? I need to time this because I'm going to run too long, and I don't know if the timer is going to.
I'll remind you, Pete, if you're running long.
Okay, very good. So you can create agendas with Free Toast Host. You can print them out. They look very nice. Let me go with the printout that I like the most. Here is a version of a printed agenda. You can also email those agendas to your various club members. You can email it to all of the members or subsets of those memberships. You can put a little note in here and send that email. Hi, fill in your speech information, send that just to the speakers, that sort of thing. And what a lot of people don't do, but I think is another service of this, you can use this agenda tool to run your um, executive committee meetings. So I've created a sample. This is a sample website, and here's a sample executive committee meeting. So not only can you use the agenda to run your executive committee meetings, but my recommendation would be after the meeting to put your notes straight in that agenda, and it becomes a version of your meeting minutes that's easy to populate and travels with you every throughout the history of the website. So you never lose it. You never have to look for your meeting minutes for your executive committee meeting or anytime you make meeting minutes. The third signature thing is the member directory, which lists contact information for all of your club members. So anybody who needs to access their membership can do that through the website. The biggest challenge that I've experienced is educating my club that these services exist. They do know about the agenda. The private member directory is a tough sell. It also has other links. It has the capability to add custom web pages. You can add as much as you want, and a lot of clubs, frankly, go overboard with this. My recommendation for this and any website you create for Toastmasters is to keep it simple. A simple website is easier to read and easier to maintain. That's a win-win in my book. This sample website is designed to make it look invitational because someone visiting your website is going to make three decisions. There's three choices. They're either going to visit your site, they're going to visit somebody else's site, or they're not going to visit. So your splash page should make it attractive so that people want to come to see your club website. That's the primary function. The other functions are primarily for members and officers of the club. It has a dues tracking feature that I'm not going to get into, but it'll do a lot of different things, and the price can't be beat. It is free. I'm not quite sure who pays for it. I think the guy who created it hosts it himself and just writes it off. So I don't know, but that is Free Toast Toast. I think that's probably all my time. That's what I'll say about it for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. And we turn next to Dave Carr.
Great. Terrific. Well, Toastmost, which you can find out by going to the toastmost.org website, is where you would sign up to create one of these websites. This is a service that I created essentially because I was frustrated with Free Toast Toast, with the limitations of it. And it's because I had experience with other types of web development. So we wanted to create a deeper, richer website that could have blog posts, for example, replays of past workshops that we had hosted. I can certainly see Podmasters could do the same thing. We have an RSVP function built in for guests, and you can see that the online presenters website looks somewhat similar. You can look at other sites that are using this setup. District 62 is the one district site that I have set up. And so they use that their RSVP tool, for example, to register people for their conference and also to collect money because it includes payment integration with PayPal and Stripe. Northside Toastmasters actually had the best Free Toast Toast site I'd ever seen. But when the webmaster found out what I offered, she converted over. Buddies has been on the platform for a number of years. And here are some other sites that I think have done a nice job with their homepage. You can see there's a variety of design choices available. Now, WordPress is standard web software for publishing websites and particularly for publishing blogs traditionally. So I had to add on functionality to allow you to also manage your agenda. But we have done that. So on the left, you see how it works on the website. There is also a mobile app for iOS and Android, which I don't think is something that you get with FreeToast. So some additional options available here. One other thing is to create these richer websites, you have access to a lot of different formatting components, but a lot of different content types. So there's this concept of content blocks. And for example, when you're going to insert an image, you can either just insert a basic image or a gallery, or there's several other standard formats available. Or down the bottom of the page, they're showing what are called design patterns, where you're bringing in a whole elaborate layout that has placeholders for images and text, and you just replace those placeholders with your stuff to get some fancier effects, some more professional effects. And I emphasize images a little bit because resizing images is one of the things I see people do badly very often. And WordPress makes it a little bit more automatic. So every time you upload an image, it actually saves the full-size image, a large image, a medium-sized image, and a little thumbnail. So you can switch between those standard formats. That is handy. There are a number of other manipulations of images that you can do. And one of probably the biggest benefits, I think, actually is that there is a principle called responsive design that says the design should flex so that if people are viewing your site on a mobile phone as opposed to a computer, the images resize, the content reformats a little bit. And I'm picking a little bit on my hosts here. This is the Podmasters website that you see on the right with the distorted images and the things going off the edge of the screen. But if you go to basically any FreeToast site, you're likely to see similar stuff. I mean, maybe Pete can tell you that there's some secret for making it not do that. But by default, you don't necessarily get support for mobile devices. There are also some tools built in that will help you with search engine optimization because the site is only good if people can find it. And so we're trying to boost our rankings in the search engines and these days also in ChatGPT and other AI engines. A lot of the same techniques actually apply. And just to give you an idea that I'm not entirely blowing smoke, if you ask what's the best Toastmasters club in Coral Springs, Google says, well, it kind of depends, but basically the answer is Club Awesome Toastmasters, my home club. If you ask what's the best club for learning to speak online, it says Online Presenters. And if you ask what's the best way to upgrade your Toastmasters Club website, well, it's going to tell you actually toastmost.org. You should move on over if you haven't already. So that's my spiel. We'll certainly go into more of the back and forth and the trade-offs as we go along. But I'm happy to be here to talk about this stuff side by side with Pete.
You are
For both of
muted.
you, we're interested in a little more discussion. I know, Pete, you mentioned by definition, free Toast Host is free. Can you talk a little bit more about, the level of technical ability you think club members need to use free Toast Host, and also sources of training and support in general for free Toast Host users?
Sure, great question. Free Toast is free. The concept is that the learning curve is relatively low. You do not have to be a coder. Sometimes coders get a hold of free Toast and they'd be better off if they didn't because they wind up creating problems for themselves. Free Toast is a user-friendly blog service where you can open the back end and it gives you a text box where you can input your content. Now that said, a lot of content providers and clubs aren't very good at it. So theory is easy, but there's always a skill to creating a useful website, not only in adding useful content, which is the skill that neither, well, maybe Dave's service provides more suggestions. Free Toast Toast sort of gives you um, a little primer on what to put in, but users are on their own. And I think we could do a better job of giving them an idea of what useful content would be added to the site. That's a service that I provide when I do online trainings, and I'm trying to create enhanced um, instruction for the Free Toast Toast service. Now, I think, see if I can track the questions that you had. There are a list of ambassadors for Free Toast Toast. I think it's maybe a half dozen people. The list is probably longer, but people come and go. We're all volunteers. And so I don't honestly know how many ambassadors there are. There's one, at the moment, one guy who runs the thing. And let's see, this question is going to come up in number 4, but if there's a technical problem with the site, I'm not that guy. I don't have the expertise. I do not have the access. I don't know how to run the site. I am a power user and can tell you how to make the most out of Free Toast Toast. So have I left any questions out, Edith? Did I cover your questions?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks, Pete. And
Sure.
Dave, similarly, can you tell us a little bit about the cost for folks to use your site and support available, those kinds of things? How technically adept do people have to be to use your site?
Sure. I mean, I'll address it as best I can. One bottom line issue is that Toastmasters is not free. So the person who started Free Toast Host, the default Toastmasters service, apparently owns a web hosting company. He does donate some capacity to this project. My understanding is that there is some money that Toastmasters International provides. They at least subsidize the cost of it. But I don't own a web hosting company, and I don't have any subsidies. So it is paid for by the clubs that find it useful, which in some ways keeps me honest. The cost is $60 per year for a club website. Now there's a 3-month free trial, because I think it takes maybe that time for people to get oriented, for them to set it up in a way that they like, maybe to start testing it with their clubs, to start testing the agenda management tools and find out if their clubs actually can use it productively. And so I give them some runway to decide whether this is something that is actually beneficial for their club. To a large extent, I used to say it's just a big web-based word processor. Don't get too intimidated by it. I would still say that there is potentially a lot to learn in terms of what you can do, but you are not in as small of a box as you are with Free Toast Toast. You do have a lot more freedom to innovate on the design. You have to be ambitious a little bit to try and get there, to try and build out, to add the videos, to add the blog posts that make it a richer and deeper site. But if you have that ambition, then the tools are there for you to do it. And actually, as Pete said, some of it actually comes down to very basic stuff. Like, do you explain clearly on the homepage where and when and how you meet? And if it's an online club, do you explain time zones? I see a lot of club websites, and this can happen just as easily on WordPress as it can on Free Toast Toast, where they don't make it clear where in the world they are. They might say the city, but not say the state or the country. And there's a little difference between Melbourne, Florida, and Melbourne, Australia, if you're trying to figure out whether you can attend that club.
Pete, were you going to add in something there?
No, I would invite Dave to throw your URL in the chat at some point. People can find your service.
I also wanted to ask if we could talk a little bit about any current issues with downtime? I know this is sort of a devil's advocate type of question, but as a member of 3 clubs, I know I have actively used, and all 3 happen to be on Free Toast Host. And I have used the support website to post some issues if we can't send out our agenda, things like that. And so I just wanted, I guess, an update, from Pete on what's happening with support. There was a period of time, I guess there was something happening. I know Amazon Web Services was down, and I'm not sure if that impacted Free Toast Host or bots and things. And, also after Pete, Dave, similarly, if you can talk about, are there, operation interruptions and status types things?
Right. So, raise your hand, thumbs up or something if you've had some trouble with Free Toast Toast lately, because I know I have. There's been a lot of that going on. And without going into the detail, Free Toast Toast had some reliability issues for the last 3 or 4 months when the site would go down. The upshot of that was, number one, I told you I'm not the tech guy. We had one tech guy working on it, and he was working hard on it, but it was his baby, and we were dependent on him fixing it. And I think if something happened to Dave's site, he would also be the tech guy responsible for fixing it. So there is definitely a bottleneck in the service. But what was happening is Free Toast hosts about 11,000 sites. And each of those sites is treated by the internet as a separate site, but in fact, Free Toast Toast is one website with a whole bunch of spurs. If you've used it, you know that you're encouraged to use an alias. So your site is podmasters.toastmastersclubs.org or something like that. But they're all toastmastersclubs.org. So it's all one site. And for some reason, the internet decided that it wanted to ping them 11,000 times, and some bad actors got involved and were throwing too much traffic at the site, and it couldn't handle it. So I was concerned as anybody about this. I had recently become an ambassador and was questioning my decision because suddenly Free Toast Toast wasn't reliable, and I had as much trouble as anybody else with it. But if you've looked at Free Toast Toast in the last 2 weeks, it has steadied down, and there's about to be a blog posted on the site for why that's happening. Doesn't really matter to any of you. Bottom line is it's working now, and hopefully it will continue to work. So no mystery that there was a problem with Free Toast Toast. Lord knows how many people stopped using it because of that, because it was unreliable. But I think it's back online, and with luck, it'll stay that way, and people like myself and the rest of you will be able to rely on it as a reliable service that is useful and free.
David, any comments on your side from your site?
Yeah, I don't want to be too quick to say, ha ha, ha ha, Free Toast Toast is down. My service is going to be better. We're completely immune from those problems, because the minute I say that, something will go wrong with Toastmasters. And I am pretty much the main technical support person for the site. So if something goes wrong, usually it's my fault. I think Free Toast Toast had some issues at one point related to an Amazon Web Services outage. My backend ultimately relies on the Google Cloud. So if Google Cloud was having problems, then my website would be having problems, or all my websites would be having problems, and there wouldn't be a lot that I could do about it except complain up the chain. And I think Pete also alluded to some of the problems with the Free Toast Toast experience had to do with hackers pounding on the site. And that basically is happening all the time to every website out there. Actually, there's a lot of specific targeting against WordPress, and I use some services that help to deflect common attacks on WordPress sites to make sure that we're not that we're less vulnerable to those than if we weren't careful. But a lot of it does come down to exercising proper care and getting things back as soon as possible. But there are times when things go wrong and I'm the bottleneck and I'm the one who has to get it working again because people are letting me know that they can't get their agenda out or whatever. So
Thank you. We have a small group tonight, so when we move to Q&A, folks can either put in chat or honestly, you can raise your hand and unmute because we have a small group. So be thinking about questions if you have them as we get closer to wrapping up. I actually had another question. To me, the key functions, and both of you talked about this a little bit, but to me, a key function of a club website is so people can easily contact a person, like through a contact us page on Free Toast Host, or if there's a function like that in Toastmost. So I'm very interested in hearing from both of you about the ways to optimize through Free Toast Host and through Toastmost, that if a new person comes to the site, what's their process in getting in touch with someone for further information, as well as event related, if someone wants to a guest. I know members, we usually have pretty good control of communication with members, but if we're recruiting guests, is there different options for advertising sites without necessarily giving away an actual Zoom link, but just promoting upcoming meetings where you're looking to recruit other folks in whatever order you guys want to respond?
I'll jump in because my sites, I tend to emphasize trying to get people to register to come as a guest. So that's why we have that RSVP function high up on the page at both Online Presenters and Club Awesome, which is my home club in Coral Springs. And so as soon as somebody registers, they're going to automatically get a response back that tells them a little bit more about the club. For Club Awesome is hybrid. Online Presenters is 100% online. So in both cases, that response that automatically goes out, that confirmation message is going to include the Zoom link. So, I mean, I certainly can see that would be useful to Podmasters. I mean, we don't want to publish the Zoom link necessarily on the homepage. We want to get a little bit of information from people first. And there is also a bot submission prevention on technology that we use to try and make sure that we're not just getting bots filling out the form, we're getting actual people filling out the form. Not 100% foolproof, but works most of the time. And that's really the way that we try and mostly get. We do also use a contact form, and in some cases, I'll just publish the email address that people can write to. But sometimes having a forum that makes people provide a little bit more structured information is helpful.
Okay, you done? Yeah, all right. Free Toast Host does have a contact us form that you can click. I was asked earlier today by Edith, is there a link directly to that so that you could put that link into social media or some other venue? And there is. So you can go directly from some other site to the contact us form. Now, I want to make 2 points here. Number one, in my experience, and I'm very curious, open question to those of you, put your thoughts in the chat. Here's a question. How many of you visited your club website before you visited the club? So if you've got an answer to that, or if you came to the website after you visited the club. Because in my experience, most Toastmasters did not visit their club website until after they visited the club. So the club website as a recruiting tool is is, I'm afraid, over exaggerated because we would like it to work better than it does. But uh, but people who are searching the web are not looking for Podmasters Toastmasters Club. They're looking for Toastmasters, and then they go to find a club and they find Podmasters, or they find my home club, or they find David's home club. And there's only in Toastmasters International a little bitty link to the website. And if some people click on that, they'll go to the website. But in my experience, 80–90% of users never see the club website until they've actually visited the club. So my opinion, and it's hard to get real data on this, is that the whatever website you use is primarily a tool for the members. That's certainly true for Toastmasters, for free Toast Host with the agenda tool, because that's a very powerful tool for the members. But
Can I disagree with because that's sort of the point of what I do and what I try and do with Toastmasters is give you a way of making your club website a more powerful marketing and recruiting tool.
uh,
And for years at Club Awesome, we would have people come into the club and say, I saw your website, I saw a couple of other websites, and you impressed me the most, and that's why I'm here. And people would pat me on the back and say, that's why we're getting all these new members. Of course, the reality is it's only what marketers call the top of the funnel. You're trying to create that initial awareness and get people to find out about your club. But I think one of your goals actually ought to be to capture the attention of people who have no idea what Toastmasters is. For Podmasters, certainly. It should be trying to capture the attention of people who are trying to figure out how can I become a podcaster? How can I become more professional? And for online presenters, it's how can I do webinars? How can I do online education? How can I do that more effectively? And so the fact that you can have a blog article that expresses a specific philosophy about that was written by one of your members, or maybe it's just a little bit of text and it's a recording of a video of a workshop you guys did, that makes it more of a magnet, and that's what gets you a better SEO ranking. That gets what gets you more visitors to your club. And that's how it can be an effective marketing and recruiting tool.
well, that may be true. I know certainly having a good website, whatever your service is important, because even if only a small percentage of visitors to your club visit your website, you definitely still want that site to be attractive to draw in members. So I have certainly had people say, we came to your club because it's better than the other one in the area that I looked at. So we chose your club. So there's value in having a strong website. But I've asked this question not with a preconceived answer, but the response that I've got is that most people that I've spoken to find the club first, usually through referrals from another person, sometimes through a web search that takes them to Toastmasters International, and only occasionally to somebody who finds the club. And of course, somebody just put in the chat, Eventbrite worked for them. We've had some success with Meetup, and people come to our club having seen our post on Meetup, having never visited our website. And with my members, I can't pay them to use my website. They just don't want to do it unless, using the agenda. So my experience, based observational experience, and I'm not an expert on this, is that websites don't get a lot of traffic. David might have a different experience than that. That there's not a lot of people searching for your specific club. Podmasters might be different because you've got this niche thing, but most Toastmasters have some name in their standard Toastmasters clubs. They all do the same thing. They might have a creative name. Some of them have really bad names, in my opinion, but people find them through Toastmasters International the majority of the time, I think. And your address should be in Toastmasters International, and oftentimes that's as far as they go. So, but if they do reach out to us with the contact us form, that goes to a club officer. And I had a guest one time who I always ask guests, why they come to my club. She said, well, I reached out. She used the contact us form to reach out to my club. And she said, I reached out to several clubs. You were the only one who responded. So that's a user issue that has nothing to do with your website and everything to do with how responsive you are to potential members.
Thanks, Pete. And we're going to have a little bit of wrap-up time now. Just final comments from both of you, Pete, David, like major reasons to take a look at your site, and then we're going to open up to audience Q&A.
I'm sorry, I was invited to wrap up. I was looking.
Yeah, like a 45-second most important thing you want people to take away about Free Toast Host or about Toastmost, and then we're going to open up to audience Q&A.
Sure. Well, I'll reiterate what Dave and I have both said, that whatever service you use, make your club easy to find. I have seen so many websites where the address isn't on the homepage at all, the time isn't on the homepage, or it's buried in a block of text where somebody's got to read that. In my opinion, if I go to a site like that, I move on, because if they're not thinking about what I want as a guest, they're probably not doing a great job as a club. And I've been to some of those clubs and had my fears confirmed. Now, one thing that Dave said that I disagree with, and I'm not an expert with this because I'm not a member of a virtual club, but I encourage you to take advantage of the Zoom features like registration and the waiting room if necessary, so that you can publish your Zoom link front and center on your club, making it easy to find. My personal experience again, if I go to a virtual club and they say, email me to find out our link, I don't. I keep going. I don't have patience for that. And I don't have patience for long home pages with a whole lot of content where I've got to dig through to find what I want to do. I want it clear, simple, and to find what I need. And if I don't find it at your website, I'm going to go to a different club.
Dave.
Again, I would emphasize as reasons to use Toastmost is that you do get the flexibility to design it the way you want it to. There's a variety of themes that are basically starter designs, but you can modify them in many different ways. And it's mobile friendly. I mentioned in the chat that nearly half of the audience for Toastmost.org and all the Toastmost websites is coming from a mobile device, not a computer. So the thing I showed you about responsive design, that's pretty important, because the first impression that people get of your club is probably what they see online, whether it's I don't want the attention to be all over the place. So I don't really want to be using Meetup and a bunch of other services. And in addition to the website, I would have as much as possible packaged up neatly for you in one place. And that place is the club website. And so that's the way I would try to.
One little addition. Dave was quite right that frequently in Free Toast Host, the images distort, especially if you try and look at them on a mobile service. I can tell you how to prevent that from happening. It's not hard, but we don't do a good job. Free Toast Host doesn't do that for you automatically, but it's a solvable problem, and I'd be happy to share that with you at another time.
Thank you both.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this panel on website options for Toastmasters clubs. Would you like to develop your skills as a podcaster? How about also developing your communication and leadership skills through Toastmasters? Then join us at the Podmasters Advanced Toastmasters Club. Visit our club website at podmasters.toastmastersclubs.org. Contact us at podmasterstoastmasters@gmail.com.